Hello, good evening and welcome to my humble model railway. Now tonight we'll be looking at a new addition to my layout. It's only arrived today, and in fact it only took a day or so to arrive. Really good service from the seller. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Now what we've got here in front of us is another Somerset and Dorset joint railway locomotive. It's in LMS livery. So I think that would have been from about the 1930s up until nationalisation. So I think they still kept the Somerset and Dorset livery up until around about 1930. I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this particular one. Now, what this locomotive is, it's a 280, and it's a very, very specialist locomotive. It was designed for freight on the Somerset and Dorset Railway. The 7F, meaning it's a freight engine. Okay. P probably means passenger engine, and MT means mixed traffic usually. There were 11 locomotives in total. I think the Somerset and Dorset joint railway, if you're looking at the length of line between Bath Green Park and Bournemouth West Station, I think was about 70 odd miles. And one of the reasons why they needed to have these locomotives for the Somerset and Dorset joint railway, well, because it was a very steep gradients running between Bath Green Park and coming out of Bath, and then at least as far as Coombe Down Tunnel, and then onwards and upwards to Masbury Summit. But we'll have a quick look in a minute to see how she runs. Now, I have had some running issues with this track today. In fact, I would have done this a little bit earlier had I not had the problem with the track. We're going to have a closer look at the locomotive as well in just a moment. What I'd like to show you first of all is what the locomotive actually runs like, if I can. So we'll just see if we get her to go. Oh, there we go. Need to loosen up the tripod a little bit. There we can see the motion there. I mean, a good view of the motion there. Is running between 3 LMS coaches. Obviously it would have put many more coaches than that on the Somerset and Dorset joint railway. Now, one of the features of the Somerset and Dorset joint railway, certainly in the 1950s onwards, would be a lot of double heading was actually carried out on the Somerset and Dorset joint railway. Again, I think it's because of heavier trains arriving into Bath Green Park from the north of England. The Point Express, for example, I think was Manchester to Bournemouth, if I remember rightly. That was the Prime Express, but I think they were originally, when the old 2P locomotives were used on it, they were limited to 200 tonnes. I think the weights were 300 tonnes plus. But by the time the 1950s had come round, and certainly the last Point Express was about 400 tonnes in weight, so much increased weights on the Somerset and Dorset joint railway. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set her into forward motion. We'll let her run round and we'll talk a little bit more about her. And there's a few things I'd like to show you about this locomotive, and it will give you some idea about what to expect if you actually want to add one to your collection. So we'll just give it a quick change of points. There we go. Fantastic. And if you saw my previous videos on the 2P, you know that I've only just recently bought these 3 coaches as well, Midland Railway coaches. I thought I'd try and get the right coaches for the locomotives. These were, as you can see from here, and if you look at the various videos and films about the Somerset and Dorset joint railway, you'll see that these were used quite extensively on passenger trains as well. Busy summer Saturday holiday traffic was where these would be needed most, and they would be double headed very often with a 4F or the class 2P locomotives. As you see, it's a very good runner. Now what I did was shortly after buying this, I've taken the body off. Put it oiled with various things. It told you where to oil it on the instructions. Just oiled everything just to make sure, just in case it had been lying around a long time in the box. Okay, And it looked, and when I looked at the actual the worm gear and everything, it looked like it could have done with a little drop of oil. So what I've done is actually I put a little dab of special grease on there, and you can see it's running very, very smoothly and quietly. Now, one thing which I'm going to show you is how this particular locomotive came, because I think it actually gives you some idea about the buying experience. And seeing what's been happening to a lot of people who bought the Hush Hush locomotive from Bournemouth and their packaging, you can see the contrast with this particular packaging. Now, I've not dealt with these people before, so the actual dealer that sold me this was a company called, if I can put it just there and get it to focus. Come on, focus. Train Stop. Okay, you can see their address and telephone number there, Train Stop. If this experience is to go by, I mean, I've had quite a very good experience with this. Okay, now it came well packed in an outer box. Okay, we'll just zoom out a little bit so you can see it better. And you can see there, it's all there. Give us some idea about the kind of box it came in. Okay, so it was nicely tightly packed, not rattling around inside. Okay, and it came with bubble wrap, and then the actual locomotive box itself came even wrapped in tissue paper. So I couldn't have asked for it to be any more well wrapped. It came in Bachmann block of ice packaging. See that there, block of ice packaging. Okay, there's some of the accessory pack there. I think a lot of the accessory pack's already been fitted, so it may have been already fitted either by them or by a previous owner. Comes with a warranty and also a leaflet about product maintenance and care. Okay, telling you how to. It's said to run it in for a couple of hours as well, an hour each way, so an hour forward, an hour backwards. That's what I've done. So that was a couple of hours actually running the locomotive in before I actually ran it with any load on it, just in case it hadn't been running before. And very much as in usual Bachmann fashion, you've got a nice diagram there of the Fowler Somerset and Dorset 280 locomotive, and then all the part numbers are down there just in case you need to order any additional spares. Then in normal Bachmann fashion, a nice well padded inner box. Yeah, the number there's upside down, never mind. Okay, and then the usual Bachmann outer box. So we've got Bachmann Model Railways Class 7F. On the back of the box, they've got a brief history of the locomotive there as well, which we'll go through now. Because it's only relatively short, so we can go through most of the main points. Now, the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway S&D JR Class 7F 280 locomotive was designed for heavy freight, and 11 were built in 2 batches in 1914 and 1925. James Clayton, the draftsman at Derby, was given a free hand to design the engine and produce something unlike any other Derby designed locomotive at this time. At the time of introduction, the Class 7F was one of the most powerful mineral engines in the country. A lot of technical details about the locomotive there. And yes, it does actually mention about the highly steeply graded hill through the men dips and why these were actually required. 2 of these locomotives actually survived into preservation, which is number 88, which is 53808, and 89, 53809. Now I think mine happened to be 53810, so, which isn't one of the ones that got no, well, it's 13810, which is really 53810. Would have become in BR guys, or it would have been yeah, so yeah, so that's it. So 13810, that's it. Right, so well, that in a way, just to show you that the locomotive was well packaged, coming from the cellar, and it arrived in good condition. Nothing had fallen off, no bits missing as far as I can see. And as you see, it ran well right out of the box. Okay. Now, one thing which you'll need to be made aware of if you buy a Bachmann model like this is the drawbar. The drawbar between the locomotive and the tender. It's basically a loose fit over like a kind of a peg. Okay. It's held in place on the loco with a screw, but on the actual tender part it's just a peg. Okay. Now, if you're not aware of that, what will happen is that you will end up towing the tender round and the rest of the train by the wires which run between the tender and the locomotive. Not a very nice way of treating the locomotive. You know, I mean, many people have actually said it's a design thing, and I think maybe we could think of something to go on the end of that peg, maybe to just hold it in place a little bit better. But I mean, that's the one little thing about it. It's got glazed windows on here as well. I don't think the cab opens up at the top. It's got a fully painted cab, and as you saw already, it's in the LMS livery. Now, although I'm very much a Great Western modeller, the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway has been an interest of mine ever since I began modelling trains or getting interested in railways. I didn't become interested in railways until my early 30s, believe it or not. But before then, I suppose tinkering around with cars and that sort of thing, you know. And when I was a youngster, we didn't have much exposure to trains. My father took us everywhere in his cars, so you know, that was one thing. I didn't really get much exposure to trains in a big way until I started to go on trains as a result of my job, and that's where my curiosity was actually stimulated by it. You know, my curiosity was brought about. Now, I'm going to give you a video recommendation. Okay, video recommendations, if you can still get these. Now, we were very fortunate enough, and we're a great deal of gratitude to a gentleman called Ivo Peters. He sadly passed away now. I think he passed away in the early 1990s, but in the late 1950s through to the 1960s, he actually filmed the Somerset and Dorset in colour. Okay, so there's a treasure trove of actual films available. In fact, he filmed many railways around the country. And if you mention the Somerset and Dorset, you have to mention Ivo Peters. Okay, the Somerset and Dorset Railway. The first video is Bath Green Park to Masbury Summit, and then part 2 is Masbury Summit to Broadstone. If you're interested in the Somerset and Dorset and want to see you know, films of the engines running and what kind of trains you see on the Somerset and Dorset, I cannot recommend these videos enough for you to be able to see. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put this one onto the Lazy Susan shortly, and we're going to have a closer look at her. Now, the first thing we're going to do, yeah, I think what we'll do, yeah, we'll put on the Lazy Susan, and then you'll actually get to see what she's like on points as well. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll bring her in closer to us now. We'll perhaps give her a couple more laps around the track, and you can see what she's like going around the track. So I've jarred the tripod then, please forgive me. We'll zoom in a little bit while it's going around there to the station. There we are, 7F. And like I say, the 7F and the locomotive you see parts up there is the 2P. They were very often running together in a double-headed formation. The 2P forming the pilot engine, which would go on the front, and then the 7F will be the one that's actually attached to the carriages. Okay, so where she comes again, and we'll follow her around as best we can. We'll see her coming around. Watch her going very, very close. As you can see, I don't have a very, very large layout. In fact, you can see why I sometimes call my railway bedstead junction in some of my videos, because this is basically on top of the bed. Pardon me. And it's 6 feet by 4 feet. So I would add some scenery, but it's never permanently up. This will be coming down at the end of this running session and be all packed away and put to another room. Mainly so I could actually get into my bed, which is underneath it. There's a lot of things we need to look at on this locomotive. So we'll just bring her in. Nice and close. Something I've noticed actually, which is missing on the locomotive, or you can see it now, is the vacuum pipe just there on the front. Now I'm hoping that will be actually included in the detail pack. Well, I've got some spare vacuum pipes to go on there if it's not. Yes, I can see it right there in the detail pack. Okay, that's ready to be added if necessary. I think in the detail pack as well there might be something there maybe to assist in the adding of a speaker. There are some other detail bits and pieces for the detail pack. Right, so let's get our uncoupler, and we'll see if we can successfully uncouple this without too much of a fuss. Perfect. Manual uncoupler, a bit of a spade. You've seen that before, I think. I don't know how well that's focused. I can't see it from where I'm standing, but have a look. Oh, there we are. There it is. That's the uncoupler there, which I just used there. You can get those quite easily on eBay. There's someone actually, I think there's somebody 3D printing them. Okay, so we're going to go on to our lazy suit in just a moment. Now, as I say, the locomotive and the tender are linked, and they actually warn you of that in the on the side of the block of ice packaging. They actually warn you of that. That is actually, it needs to be lifted out together. So we'll just lift these two together. As a matter of fact, the main thing that is fixed together is by the wires. See, the drawbar is loose on there. I'll show you that in just a minute. Show you what I mean. Now, it's being an all-black locomotive, okay, so it's going to be obviously picking out individual details and that sort of thing. But I hope I'll be able to get a nice look at this particular locomotive, and we can really see her in all its glory, so to speak. Now, let's start off by the front. One 13810. So that'll be 53810. I think would have gone on the locomotive. I think there's a little shed plate on the front of there as well. There's 3 lampars on the front. Now, I think these are the Somerset and Dorset had a very unique code for to signify whether it was an express locomotive or a freight locomotive, and I think you had one. You should put one lamp at the top there. I think one went on one side or the other, depending on what kind of train it was actually pulling. You can see on top of there, you got your brass whistle just in front of the cab there, you can see. The front windows are actually glazed on that cab as well, which is all very, very nice. The buffers on the front, we'll just have a look at those now. Definitely sprung buffers on there. Now the model is, a large amount of this model is die cast, okay, it's made out of metal. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a, it'd be a strange way of actually equating this now. If you've ever seen a phone review by a reviewer called Flossie Carter, something I'd recommend if you want a mobile phone reviews, okay, he normally smells a phone and tells you what it smells like, so I'm going to smell this. Quality. Okay, that's what it smells of, quality to me. It's a very, very nice locomotive, okay, really, really worth having. Nice handrails down there, everything else. You can see it's got the 13810 down the side in LMS black as advertised, and I think black looks quite nice, especially for a freight locomotive. Gives it a sense of purplefulness. And you can see all the valve gear down there, quite intricate valve gear, and you can see that there's a 280, you've got the 2 leading wheels and then the 8 driving wheels, okay. And then there's 6 wheels on the tender. The tender's quite well represented as well there. Bit difficult to see because everything's in black, so obviously things might not get picked out exactly with there. The coal load, quite a glossy coal load. Now, I don't mind a glossy coal load. To me that represents a coal load that's been maybe sprayed with water just to suppress dust. And that's why you very often see a sparkly coal load on a locomotive like that. So we'll say that's why it's sparkling like that. You can see the fitted cap back there and everything on the locomotive. They fitted the vacuum pipe there. Now I should imagine there'd be a hook to go on the middle of the buffer. And again, I think that's in the detail pack as well. Now I think what they do is they give you the choice of what parts are fit in the detail pack. To be honest with you, I'd rather, some people say, why don't you fit them, why don't they fit them? But I think that the owner needs to have the option. I'd rather have the option because it means that there's less things that might get broken off in transit. I don't think anything would have happened to this one in transit. You can see on the back of there, you can see just on the side there, separately fitted rail there, and one on the back, see it there? Just there. And then one was just on that side there. Lamp bars on the back as well, yet again. And again on the back, having sprung buffers. Got NEM type couplings there. And then moving round to the other side now, again back to this side. We've got another look at this wonderful valve gear and everything there. I think it's a twin cylinder locomotive. Okay, now on here as well, you've got the well, you might be hard to see it there, but there's a reversing rod coming down as well on this side, which indicates that this is a left-hand drive locomotive. Okay, on Great Western locomotives, the driver tends to go on the right, whereas on the LMS and with the railways, sometimes you'll see the driver actually located on the left-hand side of the cab. And there's something which you need to, I usually look to, if I want to know which side to put a crew in, you know, driver and fireman, look for where the reversing rod is, and that's normally where the actual the side where the driver's going to go. Okay, now the chimney's all painted in black as well, the dome there, you can see the whistles there. Okay, and they look to me like they're metal. Could be, I don't know, it feels like metal to me, I don't know. If it's not, I mean, if somebody knows differently, please let me know. Okay. Very, very nice locomotive. Now, I'm going to try and show you something just underneath. What you've got here, on the actual, between the tender and the locomotive, if you, see what I've just done then? I was just able to separate the the tender from the locomotive itself. The drawbar is now undone. All I have to do is lift the tender up slightly, and there it is, it's undone. It just fits on a peg. Well, I've got it back on again now. As you can see, it's on. Back on again now. I can put it by that. Go very, very careful to make sure that that actual drawbar is actually attached to the tender properly before you go running the locomotive. I had another Bachmann locomotive. I think it was the City class, Killarney. I had it going around my track. I could proudly go around my track until A.D. Pullen, I think it was. Shout out to A.D. who actually pointed out to me that there's a possibility that my loco and tender might not be properly attached to each other, and that I could be pulling it around by the wires. And in fact I was. So a very, very lucky escape there. I didn't cause any damage, so very, very lucky there. Now, I'll contrast that with the Hornby locomotive, which is just there, where the actual drawbar is held to the tender and to the locomotive by a screw. So each end of the locomotive is actually located by a screw with a Hornby locomotive. Okay, they must have their reasons for doing it with Bachmann. Okay, but apart from that, I mean, it's a fantastic model. I mean, I wouldn't say it was unless I really thought, you know, really thought it was fantastic. I mean, and it is. Being black, obviously, you've got a lot of things to see, to pick out. You've got a handrail there on the front of the boiler. You might not be able to see that clearly, but it's just above where the 13810 goes. Yeah, overall fantastic. Now the cab. What's the cab like? A lot of people now are in. The cab, to me nowadays, it's the main thing. You can see it very clearly there as well. One good thing on this cab, I mean, it's not quite so enclosed as cabs on the locomotives. It's quite easy to see inside. I mean, I brought a torch up with me so we can see inside the cab. But as you can see it perfectly well there anyway. Perfectly nice cab. Really, really, really nice detail on there. Let's try. Now, I think if I go any lower, you might not be able to see in there very well. Fully decorated cab. The floor of the cab is actually painted in brown as well. As we can go higher up and have a proper look. Ooh, up in the sky. Okay, let's have a look. Might get the torch out after all. Let's have a look. There, you can see the floor there, look, it's brown, look. Yes, and in fact you can clearly see the control lever there is on the left hand side of the cab there. Picks out in red. Really, really, really nice locomotive this. Now, one thing which you need to know about because it's important to some people, and to some people more than others, and that's how the actual axles are located in the chassis. Now, on this particular one, and you can probably clearly see it from the paperwork, which will go across here now. The axles are held in 4 square cutouts, okay, like that. Not, I don't think there's any bearings on the axles as far as I know. Now, that would give certain reviewers apoplexy to read that. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I've been running mainline locomotives, split chassis locomotives around my layout, which have been 40 years old or more, and they're still working fine. And they haven't got square axles, but they got you know, the actual axles actually locate directly onto the chassis, and I've not had any significant problems with any of these locomotives. With the Bachmann ones, obviously they're a different design to my old split chassis mainline locomotives, but you know, as far as the way that the axles are located in there, to me that's fine. Now, what we've done actually, we've reached a half hour time limit on this particular locomotive review. I got rather carried away tonight. In fact, it felt like I've been only talking for 5 minutes. You might think I've been talking for hours, I don't know. But we're going to go back now. I'm back onto the track. You can see her running around the track, okay? Now, it's going to take me a while to get this out tonight. It might not be out tonight. It might be out tomorrow morning. There is a reason for that, in that because I've run the time with the camera, on my camera, of half an hour, and it's a thing which happens with a lot of people's cameras. It means that you've got to then do the actual video in 2 parts and splice them together in video editing software. I mean, obviously some of you more seasoned camera professionals will know that anyway, but my computer is a little bit of an elderly computer now. I built it 10 years ago, and it will still render the video, but it's going to take some considerable time. But I will get this out to you. I mean, we're talking about 9:15, and it's probably going to take quite a long time now. I mean, it's going to be probably, if I do get this out tonight, it'll be gone midnight. So if any of you actually join me on this particular review, then obviously I can welcome you aboard. Right, so what I'm going to do then, I'm going to put this one back onto the track, and you'll see how I do that in just a moment. We'll zoom out a little. Now that's what I'm looking for. My railing ramp. Now with something like a 280 locomotive, I think probably having something like a railing ramp, for me at least, is a desirable thing to have at my disposal. Now we'll just put her there. Railing ramp. Get that flat on the track. I'm just going to pop her back onto the rails. 280 locomotive. So now this is where we need to make sure that we put the tender to the locomotive. We have. Now there's no traction tires on this particular model. Being a 280 and quite heavy, it's able to pull. I mean, I think you should imagine it would have quite good pulling power. We're just going to take the lazy Susan away now. I'm going to let her run around the track for a little while. Let's see if she'll couple up. Well, it sounded promising. I can see we're zoomed right out now, so we can see most of the layout now. And you can watch it as she goes round a little bit. Now, obviously with my small layouts, of course, we need to use a little bit of imagination, of course, with this particular layout. Obviously we're talking about a 6 foot by 4 foot layout, and I think I probably crammed about as much into it as I'd actually like to. Of course I managed to get 4 sidings into it, as you can see, 2 sidings over there, and then the actual extra siding there where the 2P is. There we go. We can imagine this one perhaps putting an express service over the Mendips towards Bournemouth and Bath Junction. It could pull a certain number of coaches. I'll have to look into it to see how many, what weight it could pull unassisted. But they still were double-headed lot anyway, you know, coming up from Bath Junction onto the Somerset and Dorset proper. Heading towards Devonshire Tunnel, that'd be uphill. Now, if this locomotive was a freight, which has been used on freight, which is a general purpose, it would usually be banked by a banking engine up behind it. If it was pulling out a freight train, and then the banking engine would actually detach itself from the freight train, just as the actual locomotive goes into Combe Down Tunnel. And then going from Bath towards Bournemouth, the Combe Down Tunnel would have been on a downhill gradient. More of a problem going the other way, because obviously the tunnel was about a mile long with no ventilation, a very, very tight single board tunnel. And in fact, one of the crews of a 7F was actually overcome by fumes on the Somerset and Dorset in Combe Down Tunnel, and that did result in a rather bad accident. On a more cheerful note though, these locomotives gave very good service in their years. They were finally withdrawn in 1964, and that's when it was decided by the Western Region of British Rail, who took over the Somerset and Dorset in 1959. They decided that freight would be removed from the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway. By 1962 they'd removed all the through trains, so really from 1963 on, the Somerset and Dorset was really reduced to being a local passenger service. And then the Somerset and Dorset finally closed 2 years after the final withdrawal of these locomotives in 1966, on March the 6th, 1966. And I mean, looking at the locomotive now. I mean, obviously, it's a model going round, and to many people, you know, that's what you like. You're seeing models going round. To me, it's a representation of something that's real. It's a representation, and it's my way of playing trains without actually going on to an actual full-size locomotive. And you can imagine the hard work that must have been put in by crews to get these locomotives over the steep gradients of the Mendip Hills. 1 in 50 were the gradients. I should imagine on those gradients these trains have been slowed down to about 20 miles an hour. Okay, so what we've done then, we ran quite a little bit over this because I got a little bit carried away on this review of this locomotive. Okay, what we'll do is we'll wrap it up quite shortly now. I'm just trying to think of anything else I need to mention about this locomotive. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll reduce the height of the tripod and have a slight change of angle, so you'll see me coming down now. And there's one of the advantages of having a tripod actually. I mean, unless you're a clumsy bird like me, the quality knocks into it. You've got a nice steady platform which you can put your locomotives on, your camera on, to actually film the locomotive. So we're going to have a little look now, zoom in a little bit. We can see if we can get an idea of this motion working round on here. Let's just slow it down a little bit. Now I think you can see the motion there working rather well there. In fact, what I'll do is we'll try and have another look at that motion as it comes round. Very impressive locomotive this, in my opinion. Oh, and we'll do something else too. There we are. There you can see the motion there working. NMS. So we've got a complete NMS train now. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch this locomotive putting into the station. Now I have had a lot of trouble with my track today, as I previously said. So if we do get any kind of bumps or clunks or the engine stopping, that'd be one of those things. But we'll see if we can get this successfully into the station, and then you can see the idea about the close control which you can get with these particular locomotives as well. Controlled very well to the works out very well as a controller. Now one thing I found as well, a little tip before just stop her there. I've got a Gauge Master combi controller, okay, and they're quite light in weight. I mean, if you rest them on the on your tabletop, they tend to move around a little bit. I think they might come with rubber feet. What I've actually done with mine is I put 4 blobs of blue tack underneath, and it holds it more still on the layout. So that's held in place now, and that can't go anywhere. So if you've got a combi controller, that might be something you might want to do. Right, so let's have a change of voice now, shall we? there we go. I was just hoping we'll get a successfully come around this side in. If the locomotive stalls or anything, it's a problem with my tractor that I'm having my track today. Okay, so in she comes. Graceful, look at that. Beautiful control, beautiful. Wish I could have controlled the tripod a bit better. But it's right in now. Okay, and just watch her go backward just a little now. We'll have one last look at that motion. (13H10). Beautiful. Okay, so thank you very, very much for watching. And if you like what you see, press like. And subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. And then you'll be able to see more of my locomotive videos. Sorry if it's gone on a little bit, but it's a brand new locomotive, and it's one that I'm very, very. I've got really, I'm very enthusiastic about, haven't I? Well, I've been reviewing it. In fact, I'm the same with all my locomotives, really. Okay, and I should bid you farewell, and thank you very much for your interest, and good night.